Hello dear viewers, I just thought that it's nice if I can explain to you the Lacanian Triad, which is the real, the symbolic and the imaginary. Now the Lacanian Triad can be explained using the Borromean ring, which is a topological structure consisting of 3 rings. Now for the Borromean ring, if you cut or break one ring, the other 2 rings would detach and the whole structure would become undone. Now it's sort of like a Venn diagram, so to speak. And in this Venn diagram we have the real, the symbolic and the imaginary. Now the real is basically Freud's death drive, or well, it's also called jouissance. Jouissance. Now jouissance can be roughly translated from French to English as enjoyment. Well, it's actually surplus enjoyment or excess enjoyment. Now, the real is something that cannot be conceptualized. In other words, it is the gap between the symbolic, or the rupture between the symbolic and the imaginary. Now, to conceptualize the real, you'd have to use language, and language falls under the symbolic. So the real is, as a matter of fact, impossible. The real exists, but we just can't use language to conceptualize the real. We can only feel the after effects of the real. An example of this would be trauma, or the shock of trauma, something that can't be expressed in words, like witnessing death from a car accident, or let's say an experience when you just don't know what to say. That is the real. And also the real is the surplus or the byproduct of symbolization. Now, okay, what do I mean by this? Let me give you an illustration. Say that we have a conveyor belt, okay? We have a machine in this conveyor belt. It's called symbolization. Of course, it has input, and for this conveyor belt, it has 2 outputs. So we have output 1 and output 2. Now, output 1 are the things that can be symbolized and therefore are symbolized. So symbolized. And the output 2 is pretty much the surplus, or let's say the waste, the byproduct. Byproduct is a much better word to use. And this is the real, or the traumatic kernel. So now, as we've established what the real is, let's move on to the symbolic. Now, the symbolic are things that fall under the order of language, law, or culture. Some things that are closely related to language, law, and culture. And when we talk about the symbolic, we fall under a world of signifiers and signified. So, signifiers and signified. Okay, let me give you an example. Let's say that I say to you the word tree, right? Tree. T-R-E-E, tree. Now, most of you would think of the usual tree, like a plant with a trunk and branches and leaves and fruits. Right? So this is what you probably imagine, tree. But the tree can also mean binary tree, like in computer science, binary tree. Now, what's special about signifiers and the signified is that one signifier can have multiple things that are signified from it. Another example. Traffic light. Traffic lights usually have three colors: red, yellow, and green. Now, red means stop. Green means go. Now, if an alien were to come to Earth, they would not know what the traffic light is or represent or symbolize. But with our experience, as we're taught about traffic laws and let's say social study classes, we know what these colors symbolize. So throughout history, we've been able to make sense out of things that are just symbols, but these symbols have meaning. It is not exactly straightforward for, let's say, a person from, let's say, North Sentinel Island to be put in, let's say, New York City and notice what the traffic light or these three colors mean. It is from our knowledge that we know about the signifiers and the signified. So it's extremely intuitive. And but with regards to the symbolic, when we were infants, we were sort of coerced or forced to learn a language. And when we do that, we are entering what's called the symbolic order. And this forces our brain to think in language. Now, when we think in language, we are not able to process anything outside of language, which is the real. In other words, we are trapped within language. And as I think about this, it's I'd say quite sad or like melancholic, I'd say. Okay, now one more thing about the symbolic. The symbolic are things that are produced by what's called the big other. The big other can be, let's say, our parents or grandparents, or let's say teachers, or even politicians. They are the one who would impose values, culture, even language upon us. And the big other can also be an abstract entity, and this abstraction is called the name of the Father. Now, the name of the Father can be referred to as Father Culture, or God in religion, or the ever-judging Father. Now, as we live in what's called society, we are in a symbolic order in which there's an authority figure that would symbolize things for us, and this is called the name, the name of the Father. Now the imaginary. The imaginary can be explained shortly as image, like things relating to image or illusions. Now this, the imaginary brings us to what's called the mirror stage. It's a term coined by Lacan. So what's the mirror stage? The mirror stage can be explained as a phenomenon in which a child around 6 or 18 months old look into the mirror, sees a reflection of itself, knows that it is itself, and it sees sort of a unified or a whole entity. And this is when the child starts to develop the ideal I or the ego. But it knows deep down that it is fragmented into many pieces containing its worries, needs, doubts, desires. And the mirror stage can explain to us that we are actually split subjects because of this fragmentation. Now, here we have an overlap between the symbolic. This area right here is the overlap between the symbolic and the imaginary, and this is called meaning. So meaning. Let me give you an example. You walk into a room and you see a chair. But as a matter of fact, you're seeing components that make up a chair. For example, its metallic legs, the nails in the chair, wooden planks that make up the chair. You may also see atoms or matter. But how do you know that it's a chair? Because it's just an object. Like it exists. But as you've fallen under the symbolic order, you know that it's a chair because the name you've given to a chair is based on its potentiality, because it serves you, and unleashing its potential to you as a platform for you to sit on. And you know that the chair is in front of you because you can see an image of the chair. But since your brain has fallen into the symbolic order, you begin to recognize using, let's say, pattern recognition and also language to name that object as a chair. And therefore we have meaning. Now, when things are sometimes too abstract, it doesn't have meaning. So, for example, let's say an abstract noun. Let's say, for example, the word freedom or justice or patience. These words don't have an exact image of itself, but we associate image with these words, and therefore we could understand the meaning behind these words. And when things can be symbolized but can't be imagined, it's just cold, and it's pretty much like nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have this personal resonance. Now, when something has an image but cannot be symbolized, it's just matter. It's just an object that floats in the void. Let's say that some smart dude built something like a contraption that we can't conceptualize it. It's just there. We don't understand how the contraption works. We only have the image, but we lack symbolization. Now, we also have an area in between real and the imaginary. This is JA, which means it is short for jouissance d'autre. A stands for autre, which in French means the other. So this is jouissance of the other. So what is jouissance of the other? An example of jouissance of the other would be how you see the others as they are enjoying themselves, as they can get access to things that they enjoy that you cannot enjoy. And it is real because what you are seeing cannot be symbolized, because we're talking about your own lack that you see is completed within the others. But as a matter of fact, the other people are also lacking, and there's trauma involved in jouissance of the other, and this is why it belongs also halfway in the real and the imaginary. An area that is an overlap of the real and the symbolic is what's called the phallic jouissance, J5. Now, what is phallic jouissance? Now, in short, phallic jouissance occurs when a subject desires something too intensely that he or she is too obsessed with it, and therefore a form of perversion occurs when that subject would actually experience trauma or suffering. Now, let me give you an example. We all know Kurt Cobain, famous singer, Nirvana, very popular. Now, before Kurt Cobain became famous, he desired that he would one day become a celebrity. The desire was very intense. Now, as he became a celebrity himself, he couldn't bear the difficulty of life, and so he committed suicide. And this is basically the phallic jouissance, the jouissance that can be symbolized, the desire that falls under the symbolic order, but it reaches the limit of the real, which is trauma or suffering. Now, in the middle, we have what's called the objet petit a. So what is the objet petit a? Let's say that, okay, the objet petit a begins with an explanation of desire. You live in a society and you desire something. But society, okay, let's say, okay, first you have jouissance. You have jouissance. But then jouissance, because jouissance means that it is an excess enjoyment, it is prohibited or castrated. This is basically something like libido, okay? And it must be prohibited or castrated in order to create order and safety within society. Now, when it is prohibited or castrated, we're lacking it, and this lack therefore creates desire, and this desire goes back to jouissance. And in the middle of all of it, it is the objet petit a. The objet petit a. Now let's go deeper. Two things we have to know: the object of desire and the object cause of desire. These two things are completely different. The object of desire is something that you desire. So for example, a car. Well, the object cause of desire is something that you envision that would happen after you've achieved this desire, this object of desire, after you've gotten a car. So after you've gotten a car, you might feel, okay, before you got a car, you said to yourself that if only I've gotten that car, I'd be happy. Happiness, full of pride. I'd achieve status. But after you've gotten the car, this doesn't exist. It disappoints you. Because after you've gotten a car, you no longer enjoy the journey of desiring that car, because it is not the it that you want, it is the fantasy of it. And this thing is the objet petit a. The objet petit a. The objet petit a is a function that masks the lack. And why is objet petit a in the middle of the ring? Why? Because it is real. It is real. Because you desired this, but once you've gotten this, you're disappointed. And the disappointment is therefore real. It is symbolic because you have something that symbolizes the object desire, that signifies the object desire of getting a car. So this is symbolic. It is imaginary because these things are what you imagined before getting a car. You might imagine yourself being happy or joyful. But in reality, after you've achieved object of desire, you've now experienced object cause. You may not experience object cause or desire. That is objet petit a. So to sum up, Lacanian triad can be explained using the Borromean ring. We have the real, the symbolic, and the imaginary. The objet petit a is something that is in the very core of this ring, and the overlaps are things that are caused by jouissance, and also the overlapping of the symbolic and the imaginary. And this is it. Hope you understand what I've just explained to you. Thank you very much. See you later.